Green New Deal, people say, always, always, always with this question of how are you going to pay for it? As though we're not paying for it now. As though the Midwest wasn't underwater this year. As though 3,000 Americans didn't die in Puerto Rico in Hurricane Maria. As though Hurricane Katrina didn't happen. As though sea levels aren't rising. As though California isn't on fire. How do we pay for that? The way we pay for this is with a people-powered movement. We're going to come together, invest our systems, and decide that instead of paying for our destruction, we're going to pay to come together and rebuild this nation. Thank you very much.
MMT is coming into its own. And you see people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez stepping up and really, really saying, hey, the answer to the question of how we're going to pay for it is how did you come up with $700 billion for the military without taxing? In fact, by cutting taxes. In fact, why don't we go ahead and reduce taxes on the people? These are the kinds of things we could do. Let's tax wealth. Let's tax land. Let's tax the rentier class. Let's tax investment income. Let's tax things that are not productive. But when we look at the Green New Deal, we don't need to raise taxes to pay for the Green New Deal. No, what we need to do is understand what real resources we need to pull off the Green New Deal. And that will tell us whether we can afford it or not. Do we have enough labor in America right now? Or do we need immigrant labor? Oh my goodness. How do we gauge, do we have the real resources for Medicare for All? Another buzzword, another important program that's out there. Warren Mosler would tell us that Medicare for All is actually deflation and would require a tax cut, not a tax increase. See, modern monetary theory actually thinks through the problem. It doesn't just say, well, of course we've got to raise taxes. It's how we pay for things. MMT strips away every lie that's out there. Every single lie, it strips it away. And it just shows you the bare naked truth. And then you can have a legitimate conversation about what your priorities are, what you think matters, as opposed to fending off lies about the Rothschilds or the this or the that. You just focus purely on the economic value of the public purpose. What is it we want to do? What society do we want? How do we prioritize the real resources that we have available to us? Now, before I show you this last bit, which is Warren Mosler's 7 Deadly Innocent Frauds, I want to talk just a little bit about Europe and the United States. So, Greece is a country that is absolutely mired in debt. It has no prayer of digging out unless there's a debt jubilee that's given to them, or they go back on the drachma, which is their old sovereign currency that they gave up, to get onto the euro. Well, in Europe, unlike the United States, they have a non-state bank. They have the Troika. They have the European Central Bank. No one state runs the European Central Bank. So when Greece, which is a net importer by far and away, has problems because their money is leaving the country and they can't bring enough taxes in to keep their country afloat, they have to borrow. And by borrowing, they've put themselves in tremendous hardship because they are in debt denominated in a currency that is not sovereign to them. They do not have control over. So you look in Europe and you say, well, which countries are succeeding with the euro and which ones are failing? You look at Germany, and Germany, of course, is the shining star of the region because Germany is a net exporter. And you can look at the United States and you could say, the states that have low taxes bring all the businesses in, but they also remove the services because the businesses demand sweetheart deals. And this is how the race to the bottom in the United States happens, and it's how the race to the bottom in Europe happens as well. And it's very important to understand the United States is nothing like Greece. The United States has its own sovereign currency. Forget the silly stuff about the Federal Reserve. For the love of God, forget the nonsense. But Greece doesn't have any of that flexibility. They gave it up. So they're like the state. They're like West Virginia. They're like Michigan. They're like California. Well, not like California, because California's got a huge economy. But in Europe, those states, you have to look, are they a net importer or are they a net exporter? How much private debt do they have? Are they able to enforce a tax? And it really becomes a game of understanding those sectoral balances. It's very important to understand there, and it's very important to understand it in our own states, in the United States. Many states in America have an unfair advantage because what they've done is they've got more real resources, they've got tons of sweetheart deals for business, and they lure these businesses away and they leave pockets of destitute people. The capital flight occurs because the states are not sovereign currency issuers, and the states pull down the businesses like Texas and Kansas did, where they dropped their tax rate down to nothing, basically, decimated the social structure, but they lured business down there. The race to the bottom. That's why we don't have Flint, Michigan water taken care of. It's inexcusable. That's why Puerto Rico is so screwed up. It's not because Puerto Rico screwed up. It's because our freaking federal government has made a decision not to spend money into that island nation, or into that island territory, as it were, or into Michigan, where they have a real legitimate national emergency as opposed to the wall that Donald Trump is trying to get built. So I want you to understand that relationship with currency issuers, the federal government, and the states, which are currency users. Europe, which has a ECB, which is not a sovereign in terms of for a state. It like overrides the whole thing. So no state, that's not their sovereign currency. They can't make a choice to spend more out of thin air. They've got to borrow it. And that, my friends, is why the Eurozone and Europe is really, really screwed, because it's created a neoliberal hell that causes privatization, causes predatory lending, causes all kinds of stuff that creates really, really horrible situations for the people. All right, so the last thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and show you Warren Mosler's 7 Deadly Innocent Frauds. And this right here is, I'm just going to show you the 7 key things here. And let me go ahead and do this. And shrink this over a little bit. Hopefully I'll be able to do this in short order. Unfortunately, I have this feeling it's not going to let me do it the way I'd like to do it. Maybe? Nope. There we go. All right, so let me move my mug shot over. So right here, if you look over here at the 7 Deadly Innocent Frauds, okay? He says the government must raise funds through taxation or borrowing in order to spend. In other words, government spending is limited by its ability to tax or borrow. Now, folks, we've already debunked that, and that's why this is 7 Deadly Innocent Frauds of Economic Policy. This is from Warren Mosler's book. It's a very important book. It is ground zero of MMT, quite frankly. The next one, the second one, with government deficits, we are leaving our debt burden to our children. Well, that's not true, because taxes neither fund spending nor is the debt a big deal because it's not debt to foreign countries. And when I say that, it's not a foreign currency, right? We're not borrowing Chinese yuan or Japanese yen or euros. We're borrowing United States dollars that we create ourselves. And it's not really borrowing. It's just there's no better term for it, right? And so these things are basically savings accounts. These treasury bonds are time savings accounts that people, when they buy and sell goods and services in the United States, they have a decision. Do I just let my money sit here in the Fed, or do I put it into a bond and let it grow interest? Well, hell, I think I'll go ahead and put it into a bond that sells, makes some interest. It's not debt that we have to pay back. Not in the sense of, oh my God, it's debt to our children. So that's a fraud. The third one, government budget deficits take away savings. Well, that's absolutely not true because a government's deficit is private savings. Fourth one, Social Security is broke. Well, we know that that's not true. If we have a brain, we think about it. All Social Security is keystrokes anyway. So how in the world could it be broke? Because they're holding on to the spreadsheet called the trust fund. The trust fund is a joke. It's not real. It's horse crap. And it even says, I don't have the document here, but I'll find the link and I'll try and put it in this chat at some point. Truth is that the trust funds are just a joke. There is no such thing as rating the trust fund spreadsheet. Every time they spend, Congress authorizes spending and Social Security checks are cut. That's it. Period. End of story. It can't go broke. It's ridiculous. And so it's time that we stop allowing our friends to expand the cap and do all these things. When in reality, Social Security could be expanded to serve as a basic income. It could cover a host of things from disability, you name it. There's absolutely no reason Social Security is in danger at all. The reason they try and tell you that is because they are trying to get us to go into Wall Street, where Wall Street can once again financialize and capitalize on our lives. I don't want that. I don't think you want it either. Next. The fifth innocent fraud. The trade deficit is an insurmountable imbalance that takes away jobs and output. Well, this is something I didn't talk about much, but we should. So I will for a minute. If you are buying goods and services from around the world and they're taking your piece of paper, the world reserve currency, right? Well, there's a whole basket of world reserve currencies, right? The United States is just one of them. It happens to be the dominant one, but it's not a big time thing. It's not a big deal. It's more of a convenience than anything. That said, if we run a trade deficit, in other words, we're a net importer, and $500 billion is leaving our country, that is not a big deal. We're trading pieces of paper or digits for their real goods and services. We're trading paper for real resources. Not a bad deal. Not a bad deal. And the reason why this is not a big deal on the jobs, because we can spend sovereign money into our own economy to offset any trade imbalance. And there's no such thing as a trade imbalance because it always balances. It's just a matter of we have a deficit in terms of we are a net importer. So we import more than we export. That's it. Government has the full flexibility to write a bill, write a law, and offset that without any problem whatsoever, other than the fact that you and I believe that we should bring the jobs back, bring the manufacturing back. We got to twist the ties on the Tootsie Pops, right? No, we don't. That's the federal job guarantee. That's a million things. We could spend on a Green New Deal. We can have real green jobs that go beyond the base level. The job guarantee is the wage floor. It sets the wage floor, and all of a sudden, anybody that wants a job can have a job. Federally funded, locally administered. Think about this. Why in the world do you want to bring back manufacturing jobs? Why would you want to do that? It's ridiculous. You're not thinking clearly. Warren Mosler says that it's actually a cost to be an exporter because we're sending real resources out of the country while we're bringing back their pieces of paper. Think about that. Think about that for a minute. All right, the next one is we need savings to provide the funds for investment. Well, no, we don't. The United States government creates money at will. At will. Completely at will. It's just silly. We don't have to have that at all. The United States government doesn't save money. Stop trying to save the federal government money. It's not your tax dollars. The government creates money every time it spends, and it deletes money every time it taxes. Every time. And the last one, it's a bad thing that higher deficits today mean higher taxes tomorrow. Well, only if you follow Paul Krugman is that true. It's bullshit. The chef's salad is what it is. We don't have to raise taxes. We don't have to balance the budget. We just need to balance the economy and make it work for people again. No matter what the deficit is, it doesn't matter. What matters is, do we have the real resources available to absorb the spending? So just keep this in mind as you hear people talk about the petrodollar. What is the petrodollar? It's a numeraire. Do you know what a numeraire is? It's nothing more than a numbering convention. It's a way of assessing a value. It doesn't actually provide value to our dollar. We've chosen to price gasoline in dollars. We've chosen to price bananas in banana dollars. We've chosen to price Scooby snacks in Scooby snack dollars. It's not a big deal. But yet, the Alex Jones community of our world has decided to make it a big deal. And sadly, and this is the worst part, sadly, it didn't stay in the right wing with Alex Jones. Some lefties started talking petrodollars too. So that disgusting scourge of Alex Jones eked into the progressive movement. And now we've got to purge that. We got to purge it. We got to get that shit out of us. It's a virus. And we got to get rid of it. All right. So I am going to close this part out. And I'm going to come back here to the main ticker. And I'm going to tell you something. The Green New Deal isn't a matter of convenience. The Green New Deal is not just an economic boom for people. It's not just a job program. Folks, the IPCC put a report out that said we had 12 years, and that was a year ago. We've got 11 years to mitigate some of the worst dangers that climate change can bring on us. Now, that doesn't mean we have 11 years to act. It means we have 11 years to fix it, to get to a carbon neutral, to reverse, to come to a zero emissions. Wow, that's going to be a hell of a thing, right? Maybe it's not possible. But wouldn't you want to die trying if that's the case? Think about the World War II mobilizations that we had to go through. We had our factories going at full capacity. Every man, woman, and child was working. We had no excess capacity. That's what we're going to need to do to address climate change. And in the meantime, it's going to help our economy. In the meantime, it's going to help our environment. In the meantime, it's going to carve out a new way of living, a sustainable way of living that's going to create millions and millions of green jobs. Not just job guarantee level jobs that are, the base wage. We're talking about high-end jobs, jobs that we all could get, things that we could strive for, things that are way better than just the base wage. Professional level career work. All of a sudden now, people will have choices. This Green New Deal gives us the option of mobility, which we haven't had in this country in a very long time. Stay-at-home parents, whether it be a husband or a wife, will have the option to do different things. People that have been in abusive situations don't have to stay in them anymore. People that are stuck in cities that aren't serving them don't have to stay there anymore. People will be able to get up and go, and they will be able to have a job, federally funded, locally administered. That is what the Green New Deal offers, amongst a host of other opportunities to alter the way we put emissions into the air and get away from fossil fuels and so forth. Is it doable? Is it achievable? Beyond the shadow of a doubt it is. Every bit of this is. And so when you read the newspapers and when you watch the news and you see all these hit pieces on modern monetary theory or mocking Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez about how she's going to pay for it, when you know that they're just talking out their patootie. They're just completely screwbarred. They're wrong. They're incorrect. And it's up to us, you and I, to get that word out to activists, voters, non-activists, couch potatoes, media personalities, alternative media personalities, town halls, our local papers, our presidential candidates. If you hear a presidential candidate talking about your hard-earned tax dollar and paying for programs with raising taxes, you hear them talking about incremental change, and you hear them talking about very, very weak earned benefits like Gillibrand and others, just say no way. No way, Kamala. No way, Corey. No way, gang. You produce citizens' benefits, public purpose spending. Stop trying to make neoliberal policies sound like they're good. They're not. They're terrible. They're awful. It's time to start serving the people. And that's what modern monetary theory gives you. So MMT is a lens. It is a way of viewing the economy. It is macroeconomic reality. It is operational reality. And there's a ton of information out there. Don't go to non-MMT people asking them about MMT. That's for you, Lee Camp, who always goes to non-MMTers. That's for others out there that always go to non-MMTers asking them to talk about MMT. Go to the MMTers. Step up. Be accounted for. This is ridiculous that so many people go to these people that have no clue about MMT and ask them to tell them about MMT. What the hell is that? Seriously, hey, can you, Donald Trump, I'm looking for you to give me a little bit of a lesson on what it's like to be a young black man in the south of France, or, in Compton. Donald Trump, can you please tell us a little bit of a story about what it's like to be an indigenous person in Dakota? It's stupid. Why would you ask somebody that doesn't know MMT, that isn't an MMTer, about MMT? Don't do it. Go to the source. Go to the people that know MMT. And the people that are saying things about it that don't understand it, they don't understand it. We've been lied to for so long. Why would they? Sometimes it's hard to be kind to people when they don't know this stuff, because they say things that you get tired of debunking. And it's very, very hard to let them off the hook because they say it with such confidence. Oh, the dollar will crash when the petrodollar, say it with that like teen angst. You can almost see the goth hair. It's really hard to cut them slack. I'm not going to lie. Not going to lie. It's really, really hard. So just do your homework. The information's there. It's very, very difficult to screw this up once you understand. And I can tell you right now, there's about 1 million things I didn't say tonight that I could have said. Here, I got this little thing right here that Real Progressives made right here. And I think this is kind of neat. I don't know if you can see it. It's kind of cool. Hopefully you can. This right here is one of our leave behinds. And it's kind of cool. And you can find this on our website. And, some of the things that, I think are important for us to know are that we can indeed afford nice things. We can indeed afford to take care of people and planet. And we don't have to make hard choices when it comes to things that are like, oh, do the rich not get more money, or do the poor have to die? Now, when you drive into a local city sometime and you see people freezing, you need to understand that's a political choice. It's not necessary. We can afford to take care of them. We can afford housing. We can afford food. We can afford health care. Affordability is not the issue. Unfortunately, there's an awful lot of Calvinism still left in America today. Well, if you did better, you'd made a better choice, then you would be able to have better things. Hard work will get you where you need to be. Well, we know that's horseshit. We know that's not true. We know it's a lottery. It's a gamble. And once you fall off the wagon, it's almost impossible to get back on. The economy is built like a casino. You go into it, and most times you walk out with nothing. Sometimes not even the clothes on your back. So with that, I'm hoping that you all take some of these lessons, take some of this information, and teach somebody. Learn, find videos. Deficit Alice is out there. They've got great information. A lot of it is our videos, which is nice. But don't waste this time. Don't start cheering for Tulsi and Bernie and all the other ones yet. We need people to learn economics, or we're going to get stuck with a neoliberal that doesn't know it. And then we're going to end up screwed. It truly is in our hands. And with that, my name's Steve Grumbine. I'm with Real Progressives, and I hope you have a great day.